With you? Nothing.
Very well. Give me a horse and I'll go alone. I don't need any of you.
The revolution needs horses, not governesses.
Irrefutable logic.
Jane Fonda is a Yankee spinster and Gregory Peck, a mysterious author who find themselves in the middle of the Mexican Revolution in Old Gringo. It's one of the 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is the romantic political epic, Old Gringo, and this is the kind of old-fashioned star vehicle that went out of fashion at least 2 decades ago, and with good reason. It just lays there like a big lump somewhere between reality and fancy. Jane Fonda plays a repressed governess who ventures to Mexico during the revolution led by Pancho Villa, and it is there she meets 2 men who affect her life. One of them is Jimmy Smits, playing a young general in Villa's army.
Look at how you look at us now. Now that you look at us without fear.
The other man is Gregory Peck, playing the old Gringo of the title, cynical journalist Ambrose Bierce.
I wrote and wrote. I wrote during long nights of insomnia, in foreign countries, in newsrooms full of enemies.
Naturally, the general helps Fonda achieve a personal sexual revolution. Old Gringo is trying to succeed in what I've often thought was the most difficult category of all kinds of movies, the period costume drama. So often these pictures come across as sort of classic illustrated comic books featuring predictable scenes like the young general dashing up a flight of stairs on horseback to torch the wealthy landowner's painting, and Fonda mixing it up with the peasant woman and debating whether or not they should wear corsets or not. I didn't believe any of this picture for a moment. When I saw the people there, I saw Jane Fonda all the time, and even Gregory Peck.
I didn't believe it for a moment either, Gene. Another thing I regretted was that there wasn't more story here, because if they had had 2 hours of real plot and dialogue and things happening and conflict, then maybe we could have gotten involved at the narrative level. But no, this movie has big set pieces where so much is happening that nothing is happening. There's a couple of battle scenes that go on forever. Then there's a ballroom scene where they're dancing forever. And then in between, what is really happening? What is really happening? You mentioned, for example, that Gregory Peck plays Ambrose Bierce. The movie doesn't really make any attempt at all to communicate to the viewer who Ambrose Bierce was,
what he represents,
that he was a real person, that in fact he did disappear in Mexico at this time, that's a historical fact, or anything else except that he's just standing around mouthing all of these platitudes.
Yeah, I mean, he's the cynical guy. She's going to wander through this. It's like Jane Fonda walks through the Mexican Revolution for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And meets these little, I call it comic books, because the scenes are like panels illustrating action, ballroom, torch.
They didn't even make an attempt to really show what it would be like for a Yankee spinster, a woman from New England in 1911, to go down to Mexico. What would it really be like for her? What would her personality be like, and how would she relate to this? She seems right at home right away. She gets there, and she turns into, essentially, into a broad-minded, liberated woman.
I thought the movie Reds by Warren Beatty about the Russian Revolution was overly romantic, but by comparison, that's a documentary compared to this piece of fluff.
Okay, next movie. Our next movie is a strange supernatural thriller that is erotic and absorbing, and finally, I'm afraid, very frustrating. It's called The Girl in a Swing, and it stars Meg Tilly in a very good, very effective performance as a young European woman who captures the heart of a British antiques dealer. They fall in love at first sight in Copenhagen, and then she follows him to London, and the romance is so mesmerizing that he doesn't realize he knows almost nothing about her.
Would you like to take it off?
You know I would.
All right, then, take it off.
Who is this strange young woman, and what are the fears which haunt her? Why does she see death everywhere she looks? That's Rupert Fraser as the man in love, and he remains in love despite disturbing episodes such as this one.
The blood of our Lord Jesus Christ, which was shed for thee, preserve thy body and soul unto everlasting life. Karen.
The love affair in The Girl on the Swing is one of the most obsessive I've seen in a long time. These two people are so much in love that they are blinded to almost everything else, and especially to the great, big, dark hints in the screenplay that all is not as it seems. Now, what is the mystery in this woman's life? On a couple of occasions, she tells the guy, I'm going to explain everything. And he says, no, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But I'm thinking to myself, I want to know. Explain to me. Who is this woman, and what is her identity? And the movie frustratingly leaves it without ever getting back to it. I mean,
yeah, I didn't know.
I have to give it a thumbs down because of the frustration with which the narrative left me.
Yeah, I was liking the picture because, I mean, obsessive love is a natural thing for the movies. And actually, I think he is more in love with her than she with him.
Well,
because
she's totally in. Come on now.
But you can't figure out what the gimmick is. That's the problem. I mean, in theory, she's in love with him, but then they keep raising the supernatural level, and so you think there's something else going on. His story is kind of interesting because he's just chasing her all over Copenhagen. But ultimately, I was very frustrated. I didn't know what the point...
There's one big scene where she's in bed and she's holding out an apple to him with one bite taken out of it.
Right.
Okay, so that makes her Eve, right? But then in that case, what are the other, you know, like the statues in the garden business, and the dreams,
and the communion,
and the communion, and the person at the bottom of the lake, and the wind blowing in the trees, until finally, you know, I looked up her name in the dictionary to see if she was some kind of pagan goddess I'd never heard of, and she wasn't. Her name is Karen, and Karen is not in the classical dictionary.
The other thing is that I think you watch the picture because Meg Tilly is really beautiful,
yes, she
and
is.
so as a result, I mean, at a psychosexual level, you get very much involved in the picture, but it doesn't pay off.
Falls in the category of the good bad movie. You know, really bad, but great to watch.
Not really bad. I just unfulfilling. Coming up next, Tom Selleck stars in An Innocent Man, wrongly accused by crooked cops of being a drug dealer.
No, I want to be with them.
Gates, I love you.
Our next film is called An Innocent Man, and when movie fans hear that title, I think a lot of them are going to think of the films of Alfred Hitchcock, who so often made movies about an innocent man wrongly accused of a crime. This time, Tom Selleck is plugged into that formula, but the script so often lets him down in his attempt to be a credible, dramatic actor. Selleck plays an airline engineer whose home is wrongly invaded by a couple of crooked drug-dealing cops, and to cover their mistake, they frame him for drugs, and rather than accept a plea bargain, the angry Selleck goes to trial with disastrous results.
I hereby sentence you to 6 years at the State Correctional Facility at Oroville, California.
6 years. Selleck is visited in prison by his wife, and the movie seems like an overblown TV show when the two of them are together.
I filed the appeal.
So, how long?
Feldman says it'll take months. And the chances of a reversal.
In prison, Selleck is also confronted by violent convicts as the movie gets surprisingly tough, and that's the best part of the film.
You guys got what you wanted. Why don't you get out of my way?
Step back. Nothing's happening here, right?
That's right.
Oscar winner F. Murray Abraham from Amadeus plays a convict who befriends Selleck in prison and urges him to pay back his enemies.
Because you're up for parole, what, are you going to just go home, live happily ever after, like all this never happened?
Don't put me under the gun, man. I just want my life back.
How often does a con get a chance to get some justice, huh? Would deserve it.
This movie jumps all over the map. It's at its most authentic when you would least expect it to be, in prison. And it's at its phoniest when it should have been much easier to be credible in all the scenes out of prison. Selleck's okay most of the time, but he's given too many awkward lines that make him look like a stiff matinee idol walking safely through phony danger.
I agree with you when you say it's all over the map, and I was surprised because it was directed by Peter Yates, who has made movies like Breaking Away and The Friends of Eddie Coyle,
and Bullet,
in which he shows a real control of reality within an action format. Here, the movie gets off to a disastrously wrong beginning by showing Selig in his everyday job as an aircraft mechanic in a long sequence that is cut and edited and scored exactly like a TV commercial, to the point that you're waiting for they could use it as a TV commercial.
I thought of TV throughout this picture.
Yeah, so you're laughing at that, and then it tries to get serious again. But so often, for example, all of the scenes between Selig and his wife are absolutely played for the plot points. There is never a feeling that these people are spontaneously together. You can feel the cogs of the script turning. For example, his little domestic scene at home where he's helping her prepare for this night school exam she's taking. And the question that he tests her on is so stupid, she can't get it. Everybody in the audience knows the answer. You can tell the answer by reading the question, so that it's just dialogue. It doesn't really have any of the authenticity of life in it.
Which is why I saw the picture falling apart at that point when he gets to prison and he gets really confronted by some heavy-duty convict scenes that are played fairly for real within the movie.
There I had a problem with the ideology involved, because the scenes are effective on a dramatic level. What they're saying is, if you're white, your enemies are the blacks, and you have to kill one, or they will kill you or enslave you.
I'm sure.
I mean, it takes an extremely violent and racially polarizing attitude here that I don't think is necessarily appropriate in an entertainment.
Well,
I mean, racism is one thing in a serious movie, but to use racism in order to exploit it for an entertainment is not worthy.
But the plain fact is that there are gangs in prisons, and I'm sure that the people who aren't in one gang are fighting the other people in other gangs.
Wouldn't you feel better if that were a serious movie about that rather than just an entertainment?
Well, that's why I say the movie goes all over the place, because here is a potentially interesting subject.
Okay.
I mean, compare that with Robert Redford strolling through Brubaker, another prison picture. I mean, at least this picture, it looks like it could be a real prison.
Well, I'll grant you that.
I mean, so that I thought was worthwhile, but then the easy stuff, the domestic stuff outside, phony. When we come back, Matt Dillon as the leader of a band of outsiders in Drugstore Cowboy.
I'm a junkie. I like drugs. I like the whole lifestyle.
Drugstore Cowboy, and this is a great film containing the best performance in Matt Dillon's career. It's one of those films in which the story and the actors and the director are all exactly right for one another, and everything works with power and emotion. The movie is set in the early 1970s and stars Matt Dillon as the leader of a small band of drug addicts who cruise the country stealing the drugs they need from the street corner pharmacies. The drug heads look kind of glamorous to a nerdy neighborhood kid who would like to join up with them.
How much of this do you want for the box, female? Hey, what do you think I am, some kind of closet pimp?
Kelly Lynch plays Dillon's wife. She goes along when Dillon tries to get a loan or some help from his mother, who's seen it all before and heard it all before and knows all about tough love.
Ma, you don't happen to have those clothes I left here last time I was sent to the joint, do you?
I threw all that stuff away years ago. I thought you were never going to get out.
Ma, how could you think that?
He is a thief and a dope fiend, and that is more important to him than I am.
If you say so, Ma.
And that's Grace Zabriskie as the mother in a very nice little performance there. Life goes from bad to unmanageable for the Dillon character, especially after one of his friends overdoses. He finally decides he's had enough.
Thinking about, heading back home. Getting on the 21-day methadone program. Cleaning up my hands.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not.
Every once in a while, a movie comes along that gets everything exactly right, and Drugstore Cowboy is a movie like that. There have been a lot of silly movies, stupid movies about the 60s and early 70s, and about how the hippie drug love culture went bad, but this is the first one that seems to know exactly what it's talking about. The performances are all so good, they take on the authenticity of life itself. I not only believed in these people, I almost felt I was living their lives along with them. This is only the second feature by the director, Gus Van Sant Jr., but he knows what he's doing every step of the way. And I believe for a long time that Matt Dillon is one of the best actors in American movies right now. This time, he surpasses himself. This is a great movie.
I thought it was really terrific, too, and I liked it. When you say great movie, then people think big scale.
Yeah.
What I like about this picture is that there are a lot of things done in the film to make it less appealing to us and to not showboat in any way, not to glamorize in any way or seem Hollywood in any way or seem phony. It has a documentary look. We talk about color being desaturated, taking some of the juice out of the color, and a lot of this movie is played at that level. I think of another film like River's Edge,
which
is
very good,
which is another picture that just they're movies And they're not documentaries, but they have an edge to them that is very, very special. And this is at that caliber.
The nice thing, the interesting thing here is some terrible things happen during the course of this movie. These are four people who are trying to get high and have a good time, and eventually one of them overdoses, and they have to dispose of the body. They love this girl. They didn't kill her, but now they've got a dead body on their hands. And the way that one thing piles on another, not in a melodramatic way, not in a artificially scripted way, but just because things are just piling up, and that's what finally gets to Matt Dillon, to the Matt Dillon character. That's very authentic.
I wish that more actors of his level would see this picture so that they would say, you know, I'm not going to participate in this kind of phony kind of movie that Hollywood so often makes. Let's go a little tougher, because these people are smart enough. This is a really good script and very well done. Coming up next, a look at the restored version of the Academy Award-winning Best Picture of 1963, Tony Richardson's Tom Jones.
And you're happy with me, wife, after all. Well, that's for you, you rascal.
The nominees for Best Picture of the Year were America, America, Cleopatra, How the West Was Won, Lilies of the Field, and Tom Jones. And the winner was Tom Jones, which was heralded as a saucy and ribald version of the Henry Fielding novel about the British class struggle in the 18th century. It's the story of a poor foundling baby raised by a wealthy landowner with a chance to marry a beautiful heiress. The film is being reissued now with 7 minutes of cuts by director Tony Richardson to make the film more palatable, he said, for today's audiences. He wanted to speed it up a little bit. Albert Finney plays Tom Jones, and David Warner is his rival for the hand of Susanna York.
I am sorry to cause you this distress, Miss Weston. I did not think the bird would fly away, but still I cannot help observing that the idea of caged birds is against the laws of nature. Don't you agree, Mr. Square?
He's got him!
Finney looks splendid, and the film is noted for its sexy scenes, including this would-be romp between Finney and the free and easy Diane Salento.
Oh, you're not going to admit you had your wicked will of me. No, I shall never love another man but you, Tom.
The most famous scene in the movie is the eating scene between Finney and Joyce Redmond. Focus, if you will, on the great sound here, contributing mightily to the lusty mood. You know, I think when people look back a quarter of a century to that picture to try and remember it, they saw, well, it was the sight of them eating. But I think it's the sound that's the key there. It's done so quietly, it's like you're at the table and you hear that slurping sound. Tom Jones plays today sort of a 60s curio piece with its vibrant English cast. It's so great to see Albert Finney looking so vital. And Richardson's freewheeling camera is always on the move. The result is an epic film with an independent camera, and it is certainly worth seeing in this version.
Well, it's worth seeing, but you know, as you were running down the nominees for the Best Picture of 1963, I was thinking that I wouldn't really want to spend my weekend looking at all five of them again. And frankly, Tom Jones itself did not have the impact to me this time around that it had when I saw it in '63. One of the reasons is, oftentimes when a movie is quite original, what's original about it is copied so often that it then begins to seem cliched. In Truffaut's 400 Blows, for example, it ends with a freeze frame. Well, within 2 years, every movie ended with a freeze frame. In Tom Jones, it was so revolutionary at the time that Albert Finney turned to the camera, and he has these asides directly to the camera. Then that became absolutely the modus operandi of Monty Python and Saturday Night Live and 16 other satirical shows, so that it doesn't seem as original in this movie.
But you know, I saw all those things and they were momentary. Yeah. At the same time, there was a style of shooting a little darker and letting scenes go on. The fox hunt in this picture, which goes on and on. I enjoyed that. I mean, I got the feeling I was along with the hunt there. And I wasn't surprised, and I was very much surprised.
Now, you were talking earlier about the problem of making costume pictures. Here, he gets, instead of just anchoring his camera and having everything in a carefully orchestrated tableau, there's a handheld look to it. There's a feeling of spontaneity that gets around the curse of the costume. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down for Old Gringo, the disappointing revolutionary epic starring Jane Fonda and Gregory Peck. 2 more thumbs down for The Girl in a Swing because of its frustrating storyline, although we were both turned on by Meg Tilly's performance. 2 more thumbs down for An Innocent Man with Tom Selleck unjustly accused. The tone of the movie was wildly uneven. 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up, however, for Drugstore Cowboy and its great performance by Matt Dillon. We both had great admiration for the movie. I think it's one of the year's best films. Finally, a split decision on the reissue of Tom Jones, the 1963 Oscar winner. Gene liked its freewheeling spirit, but I thought the movie seemed a bit dated. And so, Drugstore Cowboy is the one we really recommend
I think it's
people look for.
a very fine film. I just really can't believe that you, if a friend asked you whether or not you would go see Tom Jones, that you would say no.
Given what else was out there, it would be pretty low on my list of, I'd put several movies above it, including Drugstore Cowboy. I really would.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that as you give positive reviews from
here
on...
You should see it to be complete, so you can say that you've seen Tom Jones. But I don't know that you'll have that great of a good time. So no, if somebody wanted to know they were going to spend $7, I could think of several movies I would send them to instead, yes.
All right, well, I can think of other pictures too, but I think it has a significance in movie history that is important. I would recommend that they go see it. That's it for this week. Next time we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Michelle Pfeiffer and Jeff and Bo Bridges in the romantic drama, The Fabulous Baker Boys. Also, Burt Reynolds plays an old thief working with a young partner in Breaking In. That's next week. And until then, the balcony is closed.
Redken Classics, hair care products formulated to create beautiful, healthy hair. So effective their formulas transcend time. Available exclusively at salons. Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. Now with 30 flavors, you can serve it every day for a month and never serve the same dish twice. Johnny Cat is America's #1 premium cat litter. And now with our new drawstring litter box liners, Johnny Cat and a little privacy is all any cat needs. Nestle Crunch. It's creamy milk chocolate and crispy crunchies. Chocolate is scrunchious when it crunches. That's why you'll love Nestle Crunch.